Good evening. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation celebrates the GLAAD Media Awards with a kickoff party. Biking from San Francisco to Los Angeles, raising money for AIDS services. Peter Beatty attempts the 7-day, 545-mile experience of a lifetime. And yet another party as the Bay Area Reporter celebrates 40 years with a special exhibit on this May 2011 edition of Outlook Video.
Welcome to the May 2011 edition of Outlook Video, your nationally recognized, award-winning news magazine for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender communities. I'm Roberta Gonzalez-Gregg.
And I'm Johnny Zitch. Roberta, I understand that, buried by other events around the world, there are recent developments in Uganda regarding the Kill the Gays bill.
There are indeed. The latest development is that the private bill, sponsored by Member of Parliament David Bahati, was shelved by Cabinet Subcommittee under the direction of President Museveni. The subcommittee reported that many offenses in the Kill the Gays bill are covered by the Sexual Offenses Bill already in place. But don't celebrate just yet. Because despite the Kill the Gays bill being stopped in its tracks, conservative leaders have stepped up their efforts to make it become law. On April 7th, the Interreligious Task Force Against Homosexuality, led by anti-gay activist Pastor Martin Sempa, presented a petition with over 2 million signatures he said were gathered around Uganda in support of the bill.
With the mainstream media busy following so many other serious events around the world, Outlook Video will keep track of this bill as it loses or gains momentum. Be sure to keep us on your must-watch list.
Yes, indeed. Over the past 2 decades, Americans have experienced a significant evolution in their understanding and cultural acceptance of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender lives. Media coverage of LGBT issues have moved beyond simplistic political dichotomies and towards more fully realized representations not only of the diversity of our community, but also of our lives, our families, and our fundamental inclusion in the fabric of American society. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, or GLAAD, has been the watchdog of these representations in the media via film, music, theater, publications, and now social media.
Outlook Video executive producers Kim Lawson and Eric Chong doubled as cameramen at the GLAAD Media Awards kickoff party in Palo Alto, where Roberta was able to interview Juan Barajas and Adam Sandell of GLAAD. Stay tuned for those informative interviews.
Legs of Steel and Hearts of Gold. The AIDS Life Cycle event celebrates its 10-year anniversary. Jay Rayleigh talks with Peter Beatty and his annual trek from San Francisco to LA with only 2 wheels beneath him and the wind at his back.
So, did you do anything interesting last month?
As a matter of fact, yes. Raymond and I were at the new LGBT History Museum in the Castro for the Bay Area Reporter 40th anniversary reception. I met up with many politicians and notched on some chicken satay. Seeing all those historic pages over the years was like watching my life flash before my eyes. And it made my mind run wild, too.
Oh, really? Well, stay tuned for Raymond's coverage of that reception and party later in our program. But now, let's get started with Roberta's interview with Juan Barajas, Senior Director of Community Engagement for the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation.
I'm Liam Maitland, and you are watching the very wonderful, the very queer, very gay Outlook Video.
Good evening. We're here with Juan Barajas, the Senior Director of Community Engagement based in San Francisco of the GLAAD, Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Juan, so nice to have you with us this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Please tell us, what exactly is it that the Senior Director does with community engagement?
So my role at GLAAD is to bring in new communities and towns across America into our organization as we go out amplifying the voice of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community.
I like that, amplifying the voice, amplifying that. It's wonderful, because that's exactly what we need, is to have our voices and our stories heard and told through the media. So how does GLAAD affect the media that way? They kind of give them a little nudge?
Well, GLAAD serves as a storyteller, a watchdog, and an advocate. Okay. So we're empowering real people to share their stories. We hold local media and national media accountable for the words and images they present. And then we're helping grassroots organizations communicate more effectively.
Now you do that through workshops as well.
Various things. So it's trainings, whether with particular spokespeople or couples. We'll work with organizations as a whole. We're also working with editors, producers, executives at media companies to make sure that the way they're discussing our issues, the way that they're representing them in whatever the media form is, that it's a fair, accurate, and inclusive representation of the LGBT community.
Therein lies the rub. The fair and accurate
Right.
Showing us in a very good and fair light,
Right.
and a respectful way as well.
Right.
So you do that with the media. So there's the media sometimes, will a director or an artist or someone contact GLAAD and ask for some assistance with that?
Absolutely, yeah. We're often asked to consult on script development or story development. We will often do previews of films before they go out. We've been in business now for 25 years, and so we've made some great relationships in the media industry. So people know to reach out to us beforehand so they can really make sure to get feedback about the character or the story that they're going to present to make sure it does fit into that fair, accurate, and inclusive framework. It's really important for us to make sure that is happening because, when we tell our stories through the media, it's reaching millions of people all at once. And that type of visibility, we know from research, changes hearts and minds. So it's going to affect how a person votes. It's going to affect how a decision maker makes a policy. So it's a really critical piece of our movement.
Well, that's something that you've touched on. It is very critical because, again, it reaches so many people. In the recent movies, one was The Kids Are All Right. We talked about that a little bit just before we started taping. And also the movie A Single Man. It portrays more of our community, much less in a very realistic fashion, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's a much more open storyline that's multidimensional, shows us beyond sort of the stock stereotype that probably existed for, many years when they would have an LGBT person. Often was very one-dimensional, like a ha-ha person or the villain.
Yes, a serial killer or something of that nature. So it's nice to see us just as regular folks out there.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now with the community engagement, so you go out, you reach out to people within different fashions, not only in the media.
The way GLAAD does it is I actually go out to different cities around the country and we set up a leadership structure. So it's all volunteer and we call them leadership councils. And it's a chance for people who are interested in advancing equality, know that the media is important, and they want to bring the work to their hometown. So this has been a new role for about 2 years at GLAAD at this point, and we rolled out in 10 cities across the country, which is exciting. So we're now in places like Chicago and Dallas, places where we can really connect with regional media, regional spokespeople, and really bring the organization to communities in America that maybe aren't as touched by the media industry, but in terms of like the production side or the inside of the corporation itself, but the people who are receiving it a lot more. So it's exciting to be in these other cities, and we're fundraising, we're doing media monitoring, we're building out awareness, we're getting people involved in our organization because if we have to run a call to action, let's say, and we have to change, demand an apology from somebody, it certainly helps when they receive a communication from 50,000 people compared to 5,000 people. So that's also part of our goal here is to build our army, build our base, people who can really respond, and we give them the way to respond. And
do you do this also with like newsprint and periodicals?
Yeah, all forms of media. So newspapers, online, social media. We've done a lot of work with Facebook.
Hey, excellent.
Yeah.
Very well. There's one place that reaches out to so many people.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Okay. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. What's up for the future with GLAAD?
We're growing. We want to really deepen our impact because we realize that even as laws shift, as an example, you also have to change society's attitudes. So the work we're doing in these local towns, the work that we're doing with events like today, is going to advance us through the future and carry us out another 25 years. So hopefully our children and grandchildren the conversations will look different and will look better when we're talking about LGBT issues.
Excellent. Well, thank you for doing that work. Keep up the good work. We'll hope to see GLAAD's imprint on future media production. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
In a moment, we'll be back with our interview with Adam Sandow, the co-chair of GLAAD Media Awards.